G'day guys, I'm Ryan and today I'm just going to be talking to you about essential services in HVAC. So HVAC essential services, I've been carrying out essential services on multi-story building air conditionings, hospitals and the likes for the last 7 years. I've been leading a team to carry out these services for efficient and non-intrusive testing. We do a lot of our testing after hours and on weekends when the tenants aren't around. Early mornings to fit around certain criteria depending on site-specific requirements. We compile all our reports and services, all of our tests as per the Australian standards. We do a lot of quoting and organising repairs for failed equipment. Any equipment that we do find that has failed, we have 24 hours to supply the information required to building owners, facility managers and the like. So what is essential services in HVAC? This is the maintenance and service to HVAC fire and smoke control features of mechanical services. This is all the equipment that is used in fire or smoke control if a fire alarm does go off. This is integral for saving lives and property. The following relevant standards that we follow all of our maintenance and service tests to are AS 1851 to 2012 and AS 1668 for the performance requirements. Two aspects of essential services that we look into is smoke and fire. So firstly, smoke in a building can travel very fast. It can travel through ductwork, ventilation shafts, lift shafts. It can travel really fast. We also can find if fans stay running that smoke can be circulated throughout a building. So these are some of the things that need to be checked and serviced. MGM Grand Fire in the States in 1980 was a big issue with smoke management and the failure of fire dampers. 75 people died. Now this fire was generated in the ground floor in a cafe, and the smoke actually travelled the whole way through the building. Some floors were perfectly fine, while others people weren't saved. Some apartment rooms next door to another were perfectly fine, and the very next one was completely filled with smoke. Although this was tragic, this has helped bring to light the importance of HVAC essential services worldwide. Fire in a building, as much as it is the biggest hazard, we need to make sure that what can be done is done. We want to minimise fire egress, so we want to stop the fire moving from zone to zone. So installation of fire barriers, the use of non-fire fueling substances in walls, and what we want to make sure is that the fire can't spread. We don't want to fuel the fire with supply air through the air conditioning, and essential services is as important as sprinklers and fire extinguishers. In a building, all these other services such as alarms, these help people to know that there's a fire, but what we don't want to be doing is fueling and spreading that fire. So we do have to make sure that everything can be done. So the plant and equipment that helps with essential service control are fire dampers, smoke spill and pressurisation, stairwell fans for pressurisation. Firstly, fire dampers. Curtain fire dampers are the most common used damper in a multi-storey building. They have a shutter which can drop, which runs from a link breaking open. I have a couple of thermal links here. Now these have solder between two components, and once that solder melts they break apart, allowing the shutter to drop. These two are rated at 71 degrees and 68 degrees. Now these fire dampers are installed on every penetration on a firewall. Now every single one of these needs to be checked. There's 20% per year to be covered and 100% over a 5-year period. The thermal links themselves need to be replaced every 25 years. Whenever there's ductwork attached to fire dampers, the ductwork needs to have breakaway joints. So nylon bolts or something able to be able to fall away. In case there's a fire in a tenanted zone or an area, we don't want that travelling to the next area. So the duct has to be able to fall away without pulling that fire damper out of that wall. Smoke dampers, these are active. So smoke dampers are driven from a means of actuator. They drive open and closed, and they need to be able to fail safe, meaning that if the motor or actuator loses power, supply air dampers spring closed and exhaust or spill air dampers spring open. Now I've got a damper here just to show you the quick movement of a fire damper. They'll close like that or drive open. Now we check for corrosion, the linkages, we check the actuator is fixed properly, and we make sure that the right damper is installed. We also check the wall around the damper as well. Smoke spill and pressurisation fans. Now smoke spill extraction is removing the smoke from a building. We extract smoke from any zone with a building using these extraction fans. Toilet exhaust fans, kitchen fans, car park exhaust fans can also all be used in fire mode, and if they are, need to be tested and maintained as per these standards. They're manufactured to run to failure, meaning that they will run until they die. So they have to be manufactured to a fire retardant safety and wired accordingly. We have zone pressurisation fans bringing in outside air. Now, pressurisation in a building typically for multi-stories is a sandwich effect. So we pressurise a floor above and below the fire floor, and this stops the smoke spreading to the other floors. The floor that has the fire alarm, we open the spill dampers and extract the smoke from that level. Stairwell pressurisation. This is one of the most important features of essential services in HVAC. Stairwell pressurisation introduces air into the stairwell. We need to make sure the stairwells are clean and everybody has the ability to be able to breathe and see. We check static pressures are at the design criteria. We check fans are clear in the environment that where they're bringing in the air can't be anywhere near extraction fans. They need to be able to be free from obstruction. This is the only escape for tenants in a multi-storey building. So stairwell pressurisation, we check exit door airflows. So air across a doorway in a fire exit needs to be at least 1 metre a second. We also check opening door force. So a door can't be more than 10 kilograms. This is to allow the elderly, the frail, the young to be able to exit that with ease. Noise level is also really important. So in a tenanted space, we don't want to have more than 65 decibels, and in the stairwell themselves, 85 decibels. People won't use a fire exit if it is too noisy and could pose a hazard, and noise is associated with a hazard. We also have restoration times for all of the checks, so if there's more than 2 doors open, we have a 10-second time frame that we check to make sure the fans do react and can ramp up, ramp down and get back to the specifications. Essential service testing is broken up into 3, 6 and 12 monthly requirements. All tests and tables are carried out in Australian standards. Quarterly testing is a routine simulation. This is to check that the smoke control features of mechanical services have changed over. We don't actually have to check every asset for mechanical service. We just need to make sure that the fire control panel is engaging the fire alarm and sending it out to the mechanical equipment. Fans need to start, airflows need to change. We need to be able to check that the stairwell fans operate, smoke spill fans operate. We can use a control point observation for this. So we can use BMS, fire indication panels, streamers, and obviously our sensors. A 6 monthly testing. This is a little bit more than the 3 monthly, so we carry out all the 3 monthly services Plus, we need to make sure that the dampers are free from obstruction, they're able to drive open and drive closed. Now we don't need to check every damper that it changes for fire or pressurization, we just need to make sure that it's able to change over and that no construction works has implied or implemented the ability of that operation. Annual fire testing is the biggest. This is the full function fire test. Fire testing situation for the annual is that every zone within a building is put into alarm. We check all plant equipment has correctly operated in every mode, and we check it against the matrix. So the fire matrix is written by fire engineers and building surveyors, and this is exactly how it needs to operate for each specific building. So in summary, on an annual fire test, we check the signal from the FRP is operational and that it's sending out to the plant exactly what we need to happen. We need to make sure the plant starts and stops and functions correctly. We need to check all dampers change state in fire and in pressurization. This is a visual check of the blades themselves. This can be very time consuming, as sometimes there's up to a couple of hundred dampers that need to be individually checked twice. Fire indication panel indicates the status of the mechanical plant. This is so firefighters can actually see what's going on, what's running, what's changing over. We need to be able to also check pressure differentials between the fire floors and the non-fire floors. So we need to be able to pressurize from 20 pascals to 50 pascals for the floor above a fire floor. We also need to check all doorways are clear and the latches spring open. We also check sterile pressurization is carried out as per previously discussed. Reports and logs. So reports and logs are just as important as the testing themselves. This is to prove that everything has been done properly to the standard and to the requirements for each procedure. I've got a couple of log sheets here, a couple of reports. This is something that we fill out within 24 hours of a fire test. This is given to facility managers, building owners. Any defects we've brought up, we need to make sure that the reports and logs are kept on site. So reports and logs are just as important as the whole testing procedure. So the reason I wanted to bring up essential services in HVAC today is that it's something I believe is really important. I believe sometimes it can be overlooked. There's a lot of mechanical air conditioning companies that take on a building contract to maintain the air conditioning without realising how in-depth fire testing for essential services is. It's quite time consuming, it's out of hours, there's a lot to check and a lot to report. This is something that I'm quite passionate about and I want to make sure people are aware of what's actually required. This helps people with tenders, putting together contracts, making sure staff are trained accordingly. So this is something I've been doing, this is something our team can do for most buildings, and hopefully that's, you've been able to take something out of this today. Thanks for your time.